And hi, we're live. This is Thaon and Julie, and welcome to A Paranormal Mediums. And Julie is going to introduce our very lovely guest.
Melanie Rose.
Hi.
So Melanie is a good friend of mine and Thaon's, and we've had several road trips and adventures together that will be secret forever.
Mostly secret.
Yeah.
Some of the trouble we got into will be secret forever. So anyway, Melanie is a natural psychic medium who also happens to communicate with animals. So she has been a medium since she was a child. So she's had experiences, and she can tell you about that, of seeing spirits since she was a child and communicating with spirits. And as an adult, she went to Arthur Findlay College in the UK, and she got training amongst other places where she's been trained. So now she's a professional, and she is offering her services to help people.
Yes, and one great thing to know about Melanie is she's also starting to work on, absolutely, that too, and Unevolve Me. But she's also doing psychic detective work with two of her very good friends. So that's something to know.
Yeah,
like honestly, the psychic detective work is like, I'm really excited. Like, I'm in for that.
Yeah, me too. We are all working with Pam Coronado, who some people may have seen on Sensing Murder. She's a very kind of famous psychic detective, so we're learning from her, and we're having a great time.
Absolutely,
and she's really good.
Yeah, and she's starting to give us her live cases, which are amazing and exciting. I don't think we ever hear back on those.
No, that's the thing. You don't get much feedback when you.
I don't know if we get to, but she might. I think she, like, if something was amazing. Like one, we heard a little bit about that.
Yes, Julie was actually featured on in the IRVA conference, one of her submissions for remote viewing. So just amazing.
From the Idaho murders. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. My goodness. And and welcome, Melanie.
Thank you, lady. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. And you see, we're very casual. Melanie is a dear friend. So everyone, thank you all for being here. And tonight we're going to talk a little bit about spirit communication, as well as give the audience mediumship and I was going to say remote viewing, mediumship and animal communication readings. I know. Well, maybe it could have some remote viewing in it.
Never know.
Yeah, exactly. So feel free to introduce yourselves, give, put in the chat any questions or anything that you want us to look into for you. Feel free to open that up. So, it's interesting. We were just talking about animal communication, and actually recently, Melanie and Julie, around very much the same time, almost the same week, I believe, both had lost a pet.
About a few weeks, month difference, maybe.
Yeah. And they both had lost a dear pet, and I don't like to say pet, fur baby is what I like to call it. But so I want to hear a little bit more about it. It was a very interesting story there, Julie, what you were telling me about recently. So I'd love to hear it.
Okay, well, Ginger, my dog I've had for 15. She's 15 years old. And I rescued her as a puppy from a shelter where I actually volunteered. And I have stories from the animal shelter about dogs and ghost dogs too, from way back. But anyway, Ginger, she was my baby. I had her a long, long time. And I knew, her time was going to be coming soon, because, she was, dogs get, especially big dogs, get to a certain age and they start losing their legs and their hips and their ability to walk. And I knew she was going to be getting to that point, but I did not expect it to happen when it happened. But I did have a forewarning that I was going to lose one of my dogs. So it was almost 2 months to the day before I had a vision. And so I get these visions, and you all know about these visions that I get like every single night and morning that just can be kind of nonstop for a while. Well, I had one, and it was a vision of a woman, and she had a little like urn, and it said canine on it. And it was lime green, and she opened up a cabinet and put it in the cabinet and closed it. And so, later I thought about that. I said, well, they're getting old. I know that I'm probably going to lose one. Well, I didn't even realize until after Ginger died, that lime green, I'm like, oh my God, she was telling me which dog, because Ginger wore the lime green collar. And I thought my other dog was going to be the one that died, but it ended up being Ginger. She wears the lime green. Okay, so just a few days before she actually did go down, because it was like very sudden. I didn't expect this was going to happen as soon as it did. But a few days before that, I'm laying in bed, and all of a sudden, like just suddenly, my eyes are closed. Everything is bright white. So I'm seeing like bright white with my eyes closed. And in that moment, I also saw an impression of something I had sitting in my windowsill. It was these rocks from Sedona. So it was white light that came through my window, and I could see it with my eyes closed. And then a man said, I heard a man, it's probably the spirit guide or my dad or somebody, said, it's one of Julie's dogs. And I'm like thinking, oh, is it one of my dogs who's passed away that's coming to visit? And because then I saw like two people meeting, shaking hands, two men's hands shaking, and then a man reached down and a dog's paw lifted up, and they shook the dog's paw. So then I really realized what that meant, because it was just like maybe 2 or 3 days later, I got up and Ginger couldn't walk. She was down, and I'm having to pick her up and carry her everywhere she went to go outside to potty. So the very next day I took her to the vet and had her put to sleep. And I realized then, no, that was my dad. That was my dad. That was my dad that came in. My dad is deceased a long time ago, but I know he takes care of my animals when they cross over. I know he takes care of them. So seeing the two men shaking hands, and then one reaching down and shaking a dog paw, letting me know that they were coming for her and taking her. And I'll tell you, since she has died, like in the morning when I wake up, this has happened twice. I've heard her bark. I've heard her bark in my backyard, and her bark is absolutely unmistakable. I've been hearing her bark for 15 years, and it would sound like in the back of the yard. And I'm like, there's Ginger barking. She's out there in the backyard.
Aww.
So, and that's not uncommon, for people to hear their animals bark, their dogs bark after they die. I mean, that's happened with my brother. It's happened with me with another dog, and other people probably have stories of that too.
Yeah.
So that's my Ginger story. So she died on October 6th.
Yeah.
The day after the anniversary of my father's death.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. I remember you telling me when it was your father's anniversary about it, and and how we both even thought it was your other dog, because he was not doing well, and he was having weak legs, and but
he's going to be next, because they've been showing me him. The last vision I had of Buddy, they flashed him there. Well, one, he was in his bed. They flashed him there, and he had this big, thick blue and white leash on him, draped over. Like, they're going to take the leash and take him
Oh.
him over. So I know that they are fine, and, and I know they're well taken care of, and I know that I have family over there taking care of them. So
yeah, and to think they we have to remember they had a beautiful life too. It was Ginger was very much loved, had a lot of brothers and sisters, and and so she, her life was a good one. She had a beautiful, huge area to roam, and and got to hang out with Julie Starr for 15 years. So that was a good thing.
hard to believe 15,
right?
15 years is a long time for a big dog. So
Yeah.
Melanie, what about you? What about you? You have a story, I'm sure.
Yeah. And if anybody else has a story, go ahead.
I mean, not anything, not anything like that, but I had a big pit named Lucy, and I didn't really put it out there, but I had to put her down recently. I think for like 6 months before, I kept looking at her, and I just had a sense that something was off. Like it's just a thing. And I was just like, and I was telling my husband, I'm like, I just feel like she has cancer. I feel like she has a cancer, but she was fine. She looked fine. She acted fine. She walked, like whatever. She was 8 or 11. I can't remember. But she was fine, and I just was looking at her, and it was just something was off. And I would every once in a while I'd be like, huh, and I was like, maybe it's like a bone cancer or something that you can't see. It's so strange, but it was just stuck with me. And I was like, she's fine. She's eating, she's drinking, she's pooping, she's active. I'm sure it's fine. And then this is a dog. She's a food driven dog. She will eat everything. She will eat all the things if you give it to her. So she stopped eating her whole dish, and we were like, that's not right. And we kind of there was a point when she was getting heavier, and I brought her to the vet, and they're like, okay, like cut what she's eating. And we're like, okay, great. And then we did that, and she seemed to lose weight a little bit, and it seemed okay. And then she just stopped eating. She stopped eating a little bit, and then eventually she stopped eating completely. Like not like every day, like one day she did not eat her breakfast at all. And I was like, that was weird. So I made a vet appointment, and I brought her in, and I was like, hey, I think we need an x-ray. Like, I don't know if there's something in there, or because her belly was big and she just was not right. It wasn't right. I can't express that in any other way than to say that. But the vet did an ultrasound, and she found a big tumor, and her belly was filled with fluid that they thought was blood. So it was not good. And she was like, you don't have to do anything immediately, but it could burst. You should do this now. And I happened to be flying out in like 2 days. So I was like, can I call my kids? And it turned out none of my kids were working. They all were able to come, and we put her down. And she had a big cancerous tumor. It was on her liver and her spleen. So there was no removing it. So she did have cancer. It was just, but I'm grateful it was quick. It was necessary. There wasn't that whole like, shouldn't I? Did I do the right thing? Should I have waited? Because it was just not good. And all of my kids were not working. My kids are always working. So it was that one moment when they weren't. So it was kind of like, I'm very grateful for that, because they were all able to, come. My husband was out of town, so he wasn't able to, but my kids were. So we put her down. And then within another week, we had my husband's father's dog, who we inherited, and she was old and still moving, and she just like, it was time, and we had to put her down within like a week. It was just like a really weird time. Now, I don't really know anything about paranormal with that, but I did have this weird dream that I walked into my kitchen and I had another dog named Ruby, and she was white. And she was kind of a blur. Like I was walking in the kitchen and I looked and there was this white blur who I knew to be Ruby. And she just came towards me and I went, huh. And then she just swooshed off to the side. And then there was Lucy, my big pit. And I was like crying, oh my God. You know, I was petting her like, oh my God. It was like very lucid, like she was there. And I was touching her and I was like freaking out.
Wow.
Oh my God, you're here. Like, I'm touching, oh my God, you know, oh, you're there. I love you. I love you. And bawling. And I woke up bawling. So
Wow.
it was a really
It's
cool.
amazing.
That's the first time I've ever heard anyone talk about a visitation dream
From their pet.
with an animal.
Oh my God. And she was
That
like,
just gives me chills all
she was
over.
younger, she was more healthy and lean. And the funny thing is my other dog that had passed before her, that was an emergency where we had to put that dog down, she brought her forward. It was just really cool. Like
Oh,
he brought her forward like they were together. And I just I literally lost it. And I woke up in tears and I was like, I literally could almost still feel her on my hands. It was just insanity. So it was very good. And
what
so
a gift.
with me.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
And what you were saying about dogs barking, my sister's dog actually, she had to put him down for the same reason, the leg thing. He just couldn't walk, and it was just, there was nothing more to do, which is so sad. But we hear him bark. Like,
Really?
I'll hear him. Yeah, I hear him bark, and I was like, the heck, you know, he was a smart ass dog. Like he was one loud bark, and you're like, but and I'm like, you little shit. Like you're still here. And
You're
then
still,
yeah,
They're still around. They're still around.
yeah. And then my sister does hear him bark too, as well, which is very
Yeah.
cool because she's like, I swore, and I'm like, yeah, still.
I
So
love that.
so
They're
it's
around.
Oh, yeah.
around.
Yeah.
I swear, mainly I do mediumship readings, psychic work, you know, like that type of thing. But without fail, people's animals come through. I did the funniest thing, I did this psychic fair and I thought, well, I'll just do one because I had been studying. And like usually when you mostly when you're just starting out, you do these psychic fairs to get used to that thing. I'd never done that. So I was like, oh, I'll just try this psychic fair that I go to every year. So the one year I went there and I was sitting in the chair and I was like, oh, like, come on, everybody ready? You know, so I was waiting. And then I looked down and there was a rabbit on the ground. Like I could see it. It was a spirit rabbit.
Cool.
A pet rabbit. And I was like, you know, because I'd been sitting there going, come on, like usually I'll have someone come with me to a reading or like be in the vehicle with me or something like that. And, you know, it always is the first person that sits in front of me. And this time, like I looked down and there was a rabbit. I was like, seriously? Like,
sweet.
Want to, right?
Like I was like, all right, you know, and you know, like, you know, when you get that information or you get something, you have to say it. Because otherwise that rabbit will sit there and stare at me and it'll drive me crazy. So
Yep.
this woman comes and she sits down. I was like, hi, how are you? Do my little intro spiel. And I said, did you have a rabbit growing up? And she goes, oh my God, I did. Oh my God. And I was like, it's with you. It's been waiting for you.
Oh, I love that.
I
Oh my
love
God.
it. I love it.
But it's nerve-wracking. Like to me, like saying things like that is nerve-wracking where I'm like, hey, do you have a rabbit? You know, I know it was from childhood. I just knew that. But I was just like, oh.
Yeah, because it's almost like you feel like you're gonna freak them out a little bit. Like by they just sit down. Some people just can't really digest. I mean, even though they know they're coming for an intuitive reading or a psychic reading, that
they're
they,
like, what?
yeah,
They
like
don't see
I
that
just
coming.
sat down. Yeah.
Yeah. Or like usually when I'll be reading someone, I'll be like, oh, and there's a dog I see it tied to a tree, and it was like a chain thing, but like it was okay. And they're like, that is my grandma's dog. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, well, yeah, because it's here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm kind of like, it's not coming for me. Like, so it's
Mhm.
always interesting when animals show up. And I think they more show up because I love animals. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I foster animals. We adopt, and um,
Yeah.
for whatever reason, some birds like me.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think because you're definitely very connected to animals. And I think the three of us share that
Yeah.
love. And I always say, just because an animal doesn't speak doesn't mean their life is any less valuable than anybody else's. And I I always love people that understand that. And I know you and Julie both do. And, and it's funny, like, uh, I had I always loved every single one of my pets, but I was at a demonstration, we were talking about, I was at a mediumship demonstration. And sure enough, my first cat came in. Her name is Roxy. And like, that was my baby. And
Roxy.
it was
Love
my
it.
first, she was Roxy. And she was this beautiful gray tabby. And it was my first. I was like 16 when I moved out of the house, and it was me and Roxy. And she, like, even as an adult, I would, I could feel her tail curl around me. As like I was running on the treadmill one day, and I was like, I felt her curling around me. And so like I've always had that like deep love. Every single one of my pets were my babies. And I had 2 Chihuahuas for 19 years. I got them together. I was going in for one, and these 2 were just curled up together, wouldn't leave. And they were too young to be taken from their parents, which is usually how I get them, is they're too young. And I had them for 19 years prior to my kids. So they were my boys. And like that was really difficult. And I remember seeing somebody, because it was just so devastating. I saw an intuitive. And one thing that was really important to me was our favorite, the thing that he always did. And I didn't even say that, because knowing that I don't like it myself when somebody goes, I'm looking for one specific piece of information. If you don't know it, then,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah, I was just hoping, and I was like, oh, please say it. And sure enough, she goes, did he nuzzle right into your armpit? And I'm like, yep, that was it. And it would just, I knew he was there. And the same thing, like hearing him barking, and sometimes I could feel him in my armpit. And I know it sounds really strange, I'm talking so much about my armpit, but like that's how he slept. Even if I were really uncomfortable, I'd have to let him sleep in my armpit, because he was a little tiny guy. But I'm like, really, you really like that? But yeah, I mean, it was so bad for me. Like I had such a hard time letting them go. Though if they were suffering, I knew that I would definitely, let them go. But I don't know if it were the vet. And I keep thinking maybe that vet just wanted to take money from me, because they were like, oh no, it's okay. All he needs is an IV and 8 pills a day, and all of these things. And I did it because that was my baby. And if he was okay, I was okay. The same thing started happening with my other 19-year-old. So I had 20 pills a day and giving them both IV treatments and all of these things. And I have a pool. We've been at the same house for 9 years. And I let them out. My dogs always went to the other side, didn't even bother with it. I turned around for a few minutes. I was leaving. My kids were going to watch him. And he immediately, 5 minutes later, was in the pool. And I ran back. And I just knew he just had to go. Like he needed to leave. And as soon as I turned my back, he did. And I thought, okay, I suffered over that for a little bit, thinking, okay, did he have to leave? He wanted just to leave me. And, but then, after some, doing, I kind of understood. But then, 6 months later, my other 19-year-old, of course, at this time, I'm frantic. We have to watch because I have 4 dogs at this time. Well, now 3 after, Guapo died. And I watching like a hawk in the backyard, making sure I wouldn't let them out by themselves or anything. And, in fact, I put Pancho outside and I go, I had something cooking and I said to my son, please just watch him. And so he stood by the door staring. And then I said something to him, took not even 2 minutes. He turned his head, looked out, where's Pancho? In the pool. And I gave him CPR, everything, and he wanted to go. So, yeah, I mean,
you would have done everything. Like they knew you would have done anything to keep them there. And they were like, whoa, lady, it's time.
Oh, yes, you talked about like, your dogs, had, leg issues. I actually bought a Chihuahua, a wheelchair. And, for a time. So yeah, that's how insane I am. And, I'll send you guys, I'll text you the picture. He was the cutest thing. But he was fine. It was like, I was giving him, therapy, like doing like, his legs and everything. But yeah, they knew that I couldn't, it would be too tough for me.
Yeah, they took care of that for you, so you wouldn't have to. So we have in the chat. Do you see in the chat?
Yes. Hi there, Rachel. I could see a little bit. I did bring my glasses. Do you
want me to read it?
Yes, please.
Okay. So Rachel says she had her Black Lab pass a month before you went to the U.S. Marine Corps boot camp. I was so upset I had to leave him for training, and then he suddenly passed. And my mom said he left his body to go with me for 3 months of training. So this big orange butterfly stuck around me, and I was crying in formation like, oh my God, this is my dog. That just gives me chills. Oh,
isn't that weird though? But when those things happen, you know, like, there's no other way to explain it. Like, like she knew, like, that's my dog. Like, how crazy is that?
Oh yeah.
How strong is that love?
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty powerful love.
And he's looking after you. He's protecting you now. He's in the spirit world. He's in your field, and he is your protector.
Oh, absolutely.
And who would want a great guard dog as a protector in the spirit world?
Absolutely. And I love that story too. And that's funny. It actually brought up that memory is, after my boys died, I saw 2 white butterflies, and following me, and, my husband and I had gone somewhere, and I was like, oh, that's really weird. What is that? And they started coming closer and doing this, right near me. And I was like, oh, that's Pancho and Guapo.
So yeah, it's like, I just think like animals just stay with you. Like it's still that thing where you have to really pay attention. You know what I mean? And it's and they're right there. I actually have a good story about a reading that it was like a surprise reading actually. And I don't think they will mind telling this story. My sister, she's an esthetician. She's really good, by the way. Skin Specialties by Kelly. So she also does energy work. So when you're getting a facial, you actually
I'm coming to Wisconsin.
Yeah,
she's really good.
Can she make some of the wrinkles go away?
Yes.
Energy face.
Yes, she's magic.
An energy face.
So she does though. Like people are like, I feel so much better. And I'm like, you're doing energy work, right? And she's like, I don't, maybe. I'm like, you're doing energy work.
Yeah.
But anyway, so there was a time when she had a friend who was going to teach her to, the what's it called? The lashes where you.
Oh yeah. The extensions.
No, not where you put them in, but where you curl them, like a lash curl.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
you're talking about that little thing that you do like this?
No, it's like
it's like it's like permanent.
And then It's like
Yeah.
perming your eye.
Perming your lashes. Yeah.
Oh, I don't
And then they curl
think
up.
about that stuff. I remember
That's
those
actually
things
cool.
from the 70s where you would
Listen,
Do
I
that.
mom would
still
use
use
it.
those.
I was gonna say I have that.
I just did that like 5 minutes ago.
2 minutes ago.
Oh,
But so anyway, so she was her friend was going to teach her how to do this, and she's like, come with me, we need to practice on someone. And I was like, I don't want to. And she's like, come with. And I was like, okay. So her friend had just been in this new house. They didn't even have lawn yet, they just built it. Beautiful home. We were in there, and there's a chair and the bed, and they're like, okay, lay down, and they're like doing these things, and I'm sitting there. And I used to have this cat. Well, I have a couple cats that do this, one that I have now and one that I don't. When they walk over you and they have a fat belly, and like they walk and their belly goes over your,
Yes.
it's like it, I always think it's so soft and I love it. And it's a weird thing to say. But
No.
so
I'm doing that right now, actually,
Yeah.
rubbing my dog's belly.
So I'm laying on this table and they're like doing, they're just talking, whatever. And I feel a cat get on the table and walk across my legs. And I feel like the belly go across my face.
Oh
And I
my
was like,
God.
I said, hey, I just kind of sat up and I looked back and I was like, do you have a cat? Because she had two big boxers. I don't know if you know what a boxer dog is, but
Yeah.
they're big ass dogs.
Yeah.
So she had two big boxers, and I was like, looking at her going, this lady is not a cat person. Like, it's just really weird. Like, I just can't see her owning a cat. And I was like, do you have a fat cat? And she's like, no, I don't like cats. And I was like, okay. And I'm like, or like a small dog, like, but I think it's a cat. And she's like, no. And I'm like, you've never, like, I was like,
Adamant about it.
and then I'm
Yeah.
sitting there and I was like, you never had a cat in this house? Like, seriously. Or a small dog, like a cat that's like a dog. You know what I'm saying? And she was like, no. And I was like, okay. So I can't convince her that she has a cat there. So I was like, fine. You know what I mean? And then she goes, she continues, and a little bit later she goes, oh my God, I did have a cat, but not at this house. And I was like, okay, so is it like it's almost like a small dog, you know what I mean? It's just like but it's a cat. And I was laying there and I felt it walk over my legs, and she goes, he used to, whenever I would work on people, he would jump on the table and he'd walk on them on the table and I was like, okay, well, he's doing that now. And I said, are you sure he's not here? And I kept like looking around this corner and I was like, he's not. She's like, no, this is a new house. We've never had him here. Like, he died at my old house. And I was like, okay. I said, that's really weird because he's here. Like, he's here. And she's like, yeah, but he never lived here. And I was just like going,
it's not about the house, it's about you.
It was weird. Like, but I was adamant. When I know something, I know it. And like, you cannot break me of it because I know it. So I was like going, this freaking cat is here. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And I was looking around this corner. She had a little dining area or whatever. And she goes, oh, by the way, his ashes are right here on the shelf. And I was like, so he's here. And she's like, oh my God. And she like, so yeah, his ashes.
Yeah, sometimes people just don't kind of put it in that perspective.
Yeah.
It's the funniest
hard
thing.
sometimes to make those connections.
Yeah. Because when people say like we talk about like spirits, staying within the house that they, that either they died or felt a huge connection with, people just assume they can't leave or they're not necessarily connected to the person. But but they can.
Yeah.
But
they're connected to the person.
No, are you sure he wasn't in this house? But he, like, his actual ashes were in the house. And I'm like,
that's
he's definitely connected with his ashes. Yeah.
His ashes are in
so that was like, that's the funniest thing. So that's where like cats will just or animals will just come in, like the rabbit and the thing, like they just show up. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, yeah. And Rachel says
yeah, right.
Rachel said that about her black lab, that she believed that fully. She said, I feel like he sent my current dog to my family as well. And they seem very similar in spirit. So,
Yeah.
I hear people say that they think that feel that their past animals will send another animal in.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
totally
And
agree.
sometimes, I
Yeah.
wonder, because I do believe my dog Buddy is actually the reincarnation of a Siberian Husky that I had years ago.
Oh,
I believe that's absolutely possible as well.
Yeah,
yes,
because
Like I keep
there's these
looking at
similarities,
that.
for sure.
And then
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
dog Palo, I believe she's the reincarnation of a rescue that I had that was tragic, and she died way too young. But this dog came back, and she just has all the same behaviors and even looks like her. It's wild.
And they
Oh,
do that. Like
absolutely.
they want to stay with you. They want to be back with you.
Yeah.
I 100% believe that they do that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I know my next are going to be my Pancho and Guapo. The ones I currently have and will have for a very, very long time, were here when, my two dogs passed, and, mourned them actually, which was another interesting thing, was when both of them passed, these two are very yippy. And if a leaf, and especially because after their brothers died, if a leaf falls in the pool, they're nuts. They want me to come. If there's a fly or something that lands in the pool, they come get me so that I can fish them out. And I do, and I'll fish out any bug, anything that's there. But they do not want anything in that pool. And the day, and this was even prior to them dying, but the days, each time that they died, they sat silent by the door of the silent by the back door, knowing that don't get them because they were already ready to go.
See,
It was interesting.
that's
Yeah.
so like
Mhm.
animals know,
They know.
like they know so much more than we give them credit for. I personally believe that they know when people are coming into our lives. They know like future events because they're so much closer to spirit than we are, and they have
Yes.
this connection to where it's um like we as humans, we fight it. You know what I mean? We
Yes.
fight it, we talk ourselves up, we gaslight ourselves basically. No, I
Yes.
didn't do that. That's silly, but animals don't do that, and they're so much closer that
Yeah, they don't have that doubt that
Mhm.
that programming that we have, that
they just
tells us,
accept.
okay, it's your
Yeah.
imagination.
They
Yeah,
can't think
Yeah,
about it. They can't think about it.
absolutely.
They just
yeah,
Yeah.
are. They just
Yeah.
it's
are.
Oh,
natural.
and if anybody has, if anybody would like a animal communication reading or a mediumship reading, please feel free to put your questions in the chat, or even a story. We all love pets, and again, I hate the word pets, but we all love our animal friends, and connecting with them. And sometimes it can be really difficult, and especially because they don't live as long as you'd want them to. That it is difficult for us to see that from a puppy and to death. But as we're talking about tonight, they really never leave us, just like our loved ones. We're only gone in the physical world. We always exist. And thankfully, being a medium, that has helped me through a lot of tragic deaths in my life. And I'm sure Melanie and Julie can say the same, is knowing that they're there and that they will be there when you pass, is helpful. And I always try to think of, okay, well, with my dogs or people that I love, they were suffering in life, and now they're without suffering, and that, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And
I have an idea. I was wondering if you all wanted to do a demonstration of your mediumship abilities with animals, because I could I have many that you could do a demonstration on, but would you like to do a demonstration of mediumship with my horse, Indy, my horse Indy?
oh, I'd love that. Okay. So Julie has this horse, and actually, you told me about her when we first met. And the only thing I remember is that you loved her very much. You had a connection, and you sent me a picture.
Yeah. And
Absolutely
so you
beautiful.
really don't know about, so you really don't know about Indy. So this will be a good demonstration of your mediumship if you want to give it a shot, the two of you.
Yes, absolutely. And while we're doing that, anybody, if you want to, if you want a mediumship reading or any type of reading, just put that in the chat. But I do want to say this. Animals are also very intuitive, and you can connect with them while they're living. And I was just telling Melanie and Julie a story about my Augie, and about how intuitive he is, and apparently also have past lives. So whatever you think about that, I would love for you to put that in the chat, and we'll talk about that later. But yes, so Indy, okay, and this is your horse soulmate, right?
Yeah.
I would love a mediumship reading, please. Oh, wonderful. Oh, just real quick. I'm sorry, ladies. And Anna, if you could give us somebody that you want us to connect with, it would be easier for you if we connect with them directly and gave you the message that you want. So feel free to let us know who you want to connect with. And we're going to get that for Julie and Indy. You know, what's funny is whenever I actually think, when you talk about Indy, I definitely feel like a soulmate connection, like that kind of very strong connection. And so I'm going to connect with both of you together and your relationship.
So Julie, is your horse 2 colors?
She has.
I feel like a brown and a white, but it's almost like I'm getting like a sort of dappled.
Yeah.
Partially dappled.
Yeah, she's half Appaloosa. So, but she had that reddish brown, and she had white, kind of dappley. Yeah, so she's half horse and half Appaloosa.
Perfect, because I'm not seeing like just a solid brown horse with a little white on it. I'm seeing like a splash of.
Yeah.
Is there?
You have her. That's her.
And also, so what she's showing me is I'm seeing her lift one, I don't know what this means, lift one front leg. So I don't know if she had an issue with it or that was like a thing. Does that make sense to you? She's lifting one front leg.
Yeah, towards the latter part of her life, she had arthritis, and she had a lot of trouble and pain with her legs. So I think that's what she's showing you.
It's possible. It doesn't feel like an arthritis thing. It feels like almost something more specific. It would be like a injury, or like she's lifting her front leg right. Just something to keep in mind, but that I don't know why she's doing that, but
yeah, let me hold on to that one. Yeah.
You know, what's interesting is I keep coming up with this this Native American blanket, and that keeps like sort of popping up for me. Like there's something very earth about her. And I keep getting this flash of very earthy, like sort of like where. And I can't describe it, but it feels like she had more of a connection to the earth than an understanding of her roots there, like than any kind of other horse. And I could just kept seeing like feathers on her, and like this very like this beautiful blanket that had sort of like that Aztec-y kind of look to it. And I don't know if that was something that she like loved, or you had in her stall, but there was something about like an earth connection. And I even did see, and this could be a past life for her because I was just talking about it, but like wild, like this wild horse that lived on some sort of like Native American land. I don't know why that keeps like sort of coming up, but there was a wisdom about her, and like a difference between, let's say, and I'm not saying that animals are not smart, because they are extremely smart, and especially when they're keen on somebody. But for her, it was like unspoken. And I don't know, something about like unspoken sort of wisdom about her, where she knew, like she knew you, she knew what you like, she knew when you were sad, she knew those things, and you knew she knew that. Like there was like this, like, and you
Like
did mention that you guys,
like
right?
connection, like the
Yes,
connection, like she'd almost defer to you, like she'd know that you knew.
She did.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was, yeah.
Very interesting.
Very much
Yeah.
like that.
So
Yeah.
I don't feel like she was I don't feel like she was a very big horse. Like I wouldn't say like a little pony, but she wasn't one of those big massive things.
Right.
Like, I don't know how you size a horse. I don't know anything about horses.
They're all big to me.
But she doesn't
Yeah.
yeah, like she's obviously a big horse, but I like not a
Yeah.
good horse. Like
She was about 14. She was about 14 hands. So she wasn't real big.
meaningless to me.
I'm like, what does that mean?
Just-
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. She was just right. She was just
Yeah.
right.
She just doesn't seem like she's a tiny pony, but she also doesn't seem like a large horse. It's just like she's just, you know, like I don't want to say average, but just kind of a nice size horse, not
yeah.
giant.
But you know, and it's funny when you talked about that, I saw like her back bowed a lot. I for some reason I feel like something with her back was like it bowed more so than another horse or something like that. Like
Well, when she got very old now, because she was almost 30 years old when she died.
That's
So, and their backs will start
bow.
to bow like that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She
Yeah, I
lived a
wanna
long life.
Yeah.
I want to go back to that connection with you and her. I just feel like there was like this, like when I connect with her, it's like it's hard to describe the connection. It was like, it was a knowing both ways. You know what I mean? Where I know like horses are very intuitive and they can pick up on your energy very easily, horses in particular. But I just feel like this connection between you and her, it was like
Transcends this life.
yeah,
Right.
like it's just like there was a knowing both way. Like and with her, like sometimes animals you think, oh, she's not gonna know what I'm doing. She's not gonna know why I need to do whatever, but she did.
Yes, and she was very feminine. You can be a female horse, but you don't necessarily have to be feminine. There was a femininity about her, like this gentle, and very, and not like she was dainty, but there was something about her
Prissy.
that, yes, very much. But right, like she could be, a smart ass, but she was, right. But she just had this like, it's you and me, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
she's
And
very
she didn't
proper.
see any equal. Yeah, she didn't see she saw you both very equal in your station, right, together. And it was like this it was more of a friendship, and that's why I want to say like that soul connection, where it felt very like what Melanie was saying too, is like that intuitive connection, where it's like you have a friend that you don't have to say anything to, just like that.
Yeah.
That's what it
Yeah.
felt like, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She
Um,
was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Melanie.
And did you have a blanket? Oh, sorry. I'm
No.
just dying to know about. No,
Mm-mm.
it was a Native American thing. It was really interesting.
Past
Like,
life, probably.
maybe that was her spirit, her
Doesn't
wild
it-
Her past
spirit.
life spirit. Yeah.
yeah, because that's what I
Could've been
see
just a
her
wild
doing,
spirit,
running.
yeah.
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 So and this is weird because again, I don't know anything about horses. I know I live in Wisconsin. I don't know.
I know, me too. Yeah.
Supposed to be a cowboy or something. I don't know. So did she have an issue with her chest later?
With her chest.
Yeah, like her lungs, her chest, or like an issue like breathing. I just feel like there was a point when she had an issue breathing.
Yeah, she did.
Where it's almost like a
yeah.
pneumonia, or like just like a heavy sense of hard to breathe. Not hard to breathe like she can't, but there was an issue.
Yeah, that was something that I would notice with her in that last several months of her life. That there was like that that issue of
like a rasp, or like a, just like you hearing something that isn't quite right.
and she would fall asleep and
Rattle,
start
yeah.
snoring, which is not something that she used to do when she was younger. But she would fall asleep, or she would or when she had to get sedated to have her teeth done or something, she would just start snoring. It was the cutest, funniest thing. But yeah, I did notice that towards the end of her life, that a little more difficulty with the breathing. But she,
Yeah, I just am
very
like,
old.
I'm just brought to her chest, where there was something going on there, and I don't think it was like something you could have done anything about. You know what I mean? It's just,
Mhm.
you know, a rite of passage at that age. What was the other thing? She was very like aware, like, I know this sounds silly, but she was very aware of how you loved her. You know what I mean? Like, she just is very aware. Like, my feeling is like, I know, like, she knew how dearly you loved her, and how you would go out of your way to get her what she needs, make sure what she has, take the time. Like, she was aware of that. Like, I just feel a sense of like I was taken really good care of, you know?
Yeah. And there was some, oh, sorry. And that's funny that you would say that, because it felt like that she's saying that because there was guilt wrapped around that for Julie, like almost like, well, I felt like I wasn't there, or not necessarily enough, but like, you know, anybody has that feeling of, okay, well, I could have done this, or I, you know, like you know, it felt like there was a need for her to say that, like, well, I knew how much you loved me, I knew, and not that like anybody's passing, we all feel like we could have done something, but you know, it feels like there was something sort of towards the end, and possibly because she was like in her 30s, a little bit of a like sort of like a senile-y kind of like you know, forgetfulness about her, and that like you know, probably you know, there were a lot of like maybe frustrating moments or something like that. But I do feel like there's some sort of, you know, I wish I did this. I keep hearing that in the back of my head. But you know, I mean, as you know, and I think at the time you were working on your intuitive, you know, stuff, right? Or you were actually
No, during that time is when everything started to open up, and I started to see spirits and shadow figures, and a lot of that stuff was going on during that time. Yeah, but I had not
Interesting.
started formally trying to develop anything. I was just more trying to understand what was happening at that time.
Oh, that's interesting.
So
Like, I
had
feel
no-
like she was also intuitive, though she had experiences. Well, I mean, if you do, then it feels like she might have a knowing of those kinds of things. And I think every animal does, right?
I think every
Yeah.
animal is connected in
Yeah.
that way. And I think they were too. But yeah, some of the things that you guys are saying, and Melanie, some of these things that you're saying, that is just takes me back. You know, it's just taking me back to that relationship. It makes me a little bit teary, because
Don't you cry. Don't do
was
it.
like that. It was like that.
Was
It
there,
was like that.
was
Yeah.
And you know,
I'm seeing you gave her something special to eat, but I'm like, what is it, a carrot? Like, obviously they eat carrots, but there's something, and I feel like it's like a flower, like a specific kind of I know they eat straw or whatever I don't know what they eat. Okay.
I don't think it's straw. I think
it's I used to
it's a green, like greens.
Yes, I used to grow. Now this is really interesting. You're picking up on that. I used to grow carrots in my garden for them, but what she liked was the green top. So
okay, because I'm like
the carrot and give it to her. And then my other horse got the carrot.
Okay, that makes sense, because I'm like, I'm seeing orange, but I'm like, it's not a carrot. Like, obviously,
no, it's the tops of the carrot you're seeing. That's amazing.
Yeah,
I love it.
And I grew it just for them so she could have the green tops of
The
the
greens. Oh my gosh,
Oh,
what a weird horse. I guess all horses probably eat
Oh
that
yeah,
too.
they love it. And and she was getting an age, she didn't have that many teeth left. So it'd be harder for her to chew on a carrot, but she could chew on those greens.
Oh, that's
Uh,
so sweet.
I love it.
Well,
Uh,
it's an amazing relationship you had with her. Like it's
yeah.
a very strong connection. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and there was definitely some spiritual, and I don't even want to, it was paranormal, but I don't even want to call it paranormal, as some very spiritual occurrences that happened with her death. And
I'm just seeing her stomp. I'm seeing her stomp for some reason, like stomp in a pen.
So
Inside a pen, she's stomping.
Right.
She's not out stomping like there's for a reason.
Yeah, well, it might be
With
because of the horse flies that would get on their legs, so it was constantly out there.
Yeah. No,
What's
but I
that?
actually saw like this, right. And that's, when we were saying that before, like, and I'm like, yeah, she's intuitive, but there was something about that. So maybe she was experiencing
Was
like
there
some sort of
activity inside where she was kept?
Was there what?
Activity or some sort of activity where she was kept?
That's what I was feeling.
It's really possible. There was a lot of activity that I came to understand. There was a lot of activity on the land.
Yeah.
So there's no doubt in my mind that they weren't seeing or experiencing something, but that I had activity on that land.
Yeah.
Because I'm seeing like she's showing me I'm seeing her in a pen and she's stomping for a specific reason. It's not like flies. It's definitely flies.
See, that's interesting because I wouldn't have really known or understood
You wouldn't have.
at the
That's
time
what
that they were being affected by it. But there was there was a lot of paranormal activity on that land and in my house that I would see with my eyeballs.
Wow.
That's interesting. Yeah. And that's funny because like, it felt, and I love that you said the stomping in the pen, because I feel like her getting like nervous about stuff. And in fact, stuff that kind of felt like it was maybe you didn't know it at the time, like felt very connected to you. Like she felt like that, like almost like she knew things were happening around you or to you. So it would be like this, like nervousness that would come up in her. And when you said that with the stomping, that makes so much sense to why, I'm seeing it like that, like where it was like, it wasn't directed necessarily at her. It was more like, it looked like it was directed more to you, that she was picking up on, and that intuitive connection. So, maybe, she
was amazing. And I know we have someone that wants
she held her own though. Like this is a horse that would hold her own. Like she'd be like,
Yeah, absolutely. She was a solid, balanced horse. I mean, she was like perfect to ride when I was able to, before the arthritis got to where I couldn't ride her. She was perfect in every way. And she was also a healer. She was a healer, and I miss her so much.
I think they all are.
I would dream. I mean, I would have dreams that I was riding her, but we were flying through the sky. That means
I love
it was amazing. I know there's someone here that wants a mediumship reading. I'm just going to tell you guys real quick something, and I can tell you all later about all the amazing spiritual paranormal things that happened when she died. But right at the beginning of COVID, before we even knew we really had COVID, but COVID was here, I got very, very sick, and I didn't know what I had. I naturally just quarantined myself at the farm for 2 weeks and didn't come into contact with anybody, but I was sick, but I was still having to take care of those animals. And I had a lot of animals to take care of on the farm. I walked out sick as a dog to feed my horses. And I got into the barn and I got so sick. I was starting to pass out. And I walked over into the feed room and I went down to the floor and I just laid down on the floor. And I was like, at that, I just fell out. Right. And I laid there and I laid there. I was like halfway in and out of consciousness. And that horse, Indy, she walked over and she walked like right up to where I was laying in the feed room. And she put her muzzle on my head. And she just started like breathing on me. And then suddenly I was like awake. I was like clear. And I stood up and I felt fine. And I finished doing what I needed to do. And of course, giving her, I can still smell her, just giving her all. And then I went back to the house and collapsed, but
she gave you her energy.
She did. I mean,
that's amazing.
There's so many things I could say about that horse and so many things.
That is so nice. I can't see.
Yeah. And I believe her name is Anna. And Anna, if you're still here, let us know. She said whomever comes in for the reading, she's no one specific. Especially with if she can, just let us know that she's here. We will definitely do that reading for you.
Yeah. And if if she has pets or, because it's tough for me to tune in with just a name and not hearing a voice or having a name to look to.
Yeah, it would be better, especially with 3 mediums reading.
Yeah, she's here.
One specific. Oh, good. She's perfect.
Here. And my sense is she's looking maybe for people to come in. I don't know about if she's looking for animals, but
yeah.
I'm actually picking up a female, and it feels motherly, but I don't know if we're talking about mom. And I can't see any, I don't know if you're seeing any chats, so I can't see any chats or any responses. So
yeah, I'll read them off when she types something in. I'll read them to you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm like, when I heard her name before, I immediately was like, oh, mom figure, and then I was like waiting around, but that's immediately what I got before. But
she said grandma.
Yeah, Anna herself seems a little bit young for her mom to be passed, not from disease. I don't know that.
She said it's her grandma that's passed.
Oh, okay. So was Anna, I almost feel like the connection there is like, it's special in some way. I don't know if she is the first grandchild or if there was just a particular connection, like they shared a personality trait, but there's a certain connection there. Like it's almost like you were her girl. That's the feeling that I'm getting. Like she's grandma, but it's almost like you were her girl. And I can't see anything, so I'll just have to wait.
Yeah. And so Anna, if you want to type in the chat.
And if you guys are picking up anything, feel free to jump in.
Yeah. Oh, I'm it's funny because I was picking up a male energy, and I'm kind of sitting with it right now. And it's funny because it definitely yes, definitely. And she was more than a mother.
Yeah. It's almost like she was, like the feeling that I'm getting is like she almost was mom, but obviously she's grandma. And I feel a little bit of a disconnect with mom and a little bit of but there's a reason for that disconnect. So I'm feeling like kind of grandma step in for mom's things that she's not able to do. Does that make sense without saying?
She hasn't said anything just yet.
Okay. I just don't want to, like, I don't know how personal to go.
Yes, exactly. Like I don't feel close to mom, but grandma was everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like mom had some issues where she wasn't really no love lost with mom, but like she just didn't have some capabilities where grandma kind of stepped in and took over. And grandma's definitely with you, and yes, she hears you.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh. And yeah, and it's interesting as I like picking up a male energy, and at first it felt like a contemporary, but then it felt very much like a male that wasn't necessarily connected to you, and and if she said she was absent mostly. Yeah. And if you want to go ahead, Melanie, I feel like I'm cutting in here.
No, it's okay. It was just kind of like, I feel like grandma saved the day. You know what I mean? Like that's the feeling, like where mom was not there, grandma kind of swooped in and filled in. And the connection there was like very, obviously there's a difference in age, but it was just very close and like lovely, like you were her girl, you know.
Yeah,
She said,
exactly.
yeah,
She said,
exactly.
Perfect.
yeah.
Grandma's absolutely with you, and I think that you know that, because it's kind of like, where else would she be? And when you do speak to her, she does hear you, and when you think of her, she's there. Like, I don't know if there's a question where you're sometimes like, does she hear me? Like, yeah,
She said, I'm
absolutely.
getting teary. Yeah.
Absolutely. Don't cry. We're not crying here. But yeah, just know that when you think of her, it's like that connection grows stronger. Like, we're connected with love, and you think of her and you bring her closer. And so don't question that anymore. Speak freely. You can speak in your head, you can speak out loud. She hears you regardless. She's with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it said, and so happy to hear that so much. So that's beautiful. Yeah. And it's interesting too, Anna, you have a few people that have passed. I did actually start feeling like I would say every time I see Cardinals, I feel her. Aw. And I think yeah, that's beautiful. And Cardinals are definitely that sign that I see a red-headed woodpecker every time. Isn't that weird? And it's not really normal in Florida. So I'll see, if I see it, I know. One, because red like woodpeckers are like spazzes like me and my mother. But
In a good way.
yeah, in a good way. I mean, they're doing their job. But yeah, that's beautiful. Is there anything, and I don't want to cut this out because this is a beautiful moment. So do you have any other questions for Melanie there, Anna? I know the delay in technology.
I know, I do. I also get like an outdoorsy feel. Like before, I was seeing like, I wouldn't say a farm particularly, but I just see like a lot of outdoor where she had you outside.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. She said, that's all. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Oh,
No problem.
wonderful. Yeah. And and Anna, do you mind if I connect with this person? At first I saw like a male contemporary, somebody that thank you so much. And yes, she had a beautiful garden. Oh, that's nice. Oh, I love that. Yeah, it's funny, there was two males and both had a very similar sort of, oh, thank you, a similar sort of personality. And I wouldn't say necessarily personality, but the relationship between you and this person was similar. So there's a older male figure. At first I thought it was an uncle, but then I started feeling more of somebody that needed to be in your life. And you can definitely let me know if this is your father, if he had passed, but I don't feel like a connection within life. But I also see a younger male with him. But they have a very similar personality, and I'm not sure if this was like, let's say, a friend of yours, that had passed at a young age, and also like an uncle or somebody of yours. But what came in for me was two separate people with the same personality, and both male. And there was a sense of sort of incompleteness. I had an uncle who passed away in a murder suicide. Okay. Yeah. And young. Okay. And that's why I'm sort of feeling this, and it's interesting, because the feeling is when he comes in, and it's weird because they have like the same sort of personalities, like this young guy and then this older guy. So he was young when he passed, you're saying. And it's funny because there is a lot of regret there, but there's also a lot of growth. And it's almost like he's trying to say, I grew, I'm not the same person as what people always think that I am. And, I see, I kind of feel like there was a lot of, like alcohol, I don't feel that he was in his right mind at the time, but I do feel a scenario of where, he wasn't really thinking, and it was, suicide is this way, but he's really kind of trying to say, this was a snap second decision, and it was out of anger, and then gone. But that wasn't, I do see trouble in his life prior to this happening. But the problem is that he didn't really have a basis. And I think this is what he's showing me, is like, I didn't have like the really the I wasn't influenced in the right way from the beginning. And so, and he keeps like doing this, like scratching his head, like, there's a lot of confusion in my life, and what was right, what was wrong. And, and so it kind of made him very jealous, made him very angry, at times. Yes, he achieved so much at such a young age, and is so sad to see everything left so scattered. But see, this is, when we pass, we're not done growing, and he doesn't stay here to repeat his mistakes. He doesn't just stay stuck, is what he's trying to say to you. He's more trying to show the growth, and that, I know I did wrong. I see it now at this point, and I don't feel anger or guilt or any of those things. I feel like there's this side of him that wants to sort of take care of, and in fact, I see him helping other troubled people in your life. There's some younger people in your life that are troubled, and that he sort of tries to help, and male. Like a younger male, so maybe a nephew, maybe a child, but there is sort of like helping them sort of break through certain frustrations. That's a relief to hear, because so many questions left without answers. Well, yeah, and I absolutely, they come because they want to sort of make amends or give you some relief as to where they are in their growth right now. And he definitely is here, and is definitely working to help you and your family in the same respect. So yeah. Hopefully that was
I was tuning into an uncle also, and the way I see him, I see your grandmother like is in the forefront, and she has this really like this big energy, like, okay, she's like this guide for you, and she's trying to communicate with you in ways to help you in your life. But this uncle is behind her, but I feel like he's connected with her somehow, and I don't know, and you haven't said if it's the same side of the family, but it feels like he is with her, or she brought him through, but she's in front of him, and she's helping him on the other side. So it's like this, and I feel this sadness with him, and that he's kind of stepped back. There's this sadness with him, but like Theon is saying, there's this growth process and grandma is helping him. And I was also seeing a man to grandma's right. And this feels like a husband or someone that she loves. So maybe this is your grandfather, but there's lots of family, like older generations. Okay, and his kids are left behind, but they're all together and they're all watching you and aware of you, and they are proud of you. And don't think for a minute that they're not in your business, because they are in your business. And like Melanie said, talk freely because they can hear you. And if you get really quiet and listen, you just might hear them talk back.
Yeah, and I think grandma's the big deal.
She's the big deal.
Like she's
I think Melanie froze a little bit.
Yeah, you froze too.
Did I? Interesting.
Melanie's still frozen.
Yeah. But yeah, I definitely think that, you know, it's interesting when he shows me, you know, he shows me the, relationship that he's having with, younger, people in your life. And you said that he has kids. So, you know, he's definitely connecting with them in his own way. It is going to be difficult. There she is. Melanie, her energy is so strong.
Grandma's the big deal. Like she's this is how we're going to do this. It's going to be good, blah, blah, blah. You know, like she's the forefront. Very much so.
They're proud of you. I'm really getting just very strong how proud she is of you, and how you're the woman that you're grown into.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, you know, it does, it's funny because when Julie says that, I see your dynamic within the family right now. And because of your grandmother's influence, you had a different sense about what your place was in the family. You felt much more whole than some of the people in your family, and therefore you have kind of taken on that responsibility with them. It feels in a big way. Thank you so much, all of you. I appreciate it so much. No problem at all. And yeah, you got a bunch of us very interested in your big family here. So yeah, right.
And your little dog too.
I know, exactly.
Have a little dog, or there's a little dog that keeps coming in. But that may be because we've been talking so much about animals.
Yes.
Anyway, I just absolutely want to say, and your little dog too.
And I have a quick question, real quick. Oh, are you finished with this?
Oh yeah.
I don't want to interrupt. Okay. Is Rachel Russell like our Rachel that I know?
Yes.
Okay, so if she's still on, I'm not sure if she is, but it's funny that she was mentioning that her lab, because we had a meeting and she had come on and this dog was by her, and I was like drawn to this dog. Like her dog was so, like there was something like otherworldly.
The big brown one?
Yeah, he was like on her and he was just so relaxed and so into her. And I was like, that's a really good dog. You know what I mean? He had this,
yes.
He just had this wise sort of look. So it's funny. I was like, I'm pretty sure that dog is connected to the lab that Pat, you know what I mean? When she said that, I was like, oh, I remember that dog. Because I saw him in our meeting and I was like, huh. But anyway,
I love
just
that.
Throw that out there.
Cool.
I love that. I know now. Now I just love spirit communications, animal communications, because it's so interesting. You know, one of our biggest things is, you know, when they get sick, they can't tell us, so what's going on? And, you know, connecting intuitively with your dog, that definitely helps, you know, to understand, just like Melanie was saying, is that she knew something was going on with her dog. And, you know, it's because she was so tuned in. And you don't have to be a psychic reader to have those experiences. You just have to trust the information you're getting. And
they will tell you. They do tell you. You know what I mean? They before you said like they can't speak, but they do.
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
communicate.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
have, if something flashes in your head and you're like, oh, that's weird. That's
Yeah.
what they do. They'll send you pictures, and animals
Yeah.
typically work in pictures. But
Right. And for context, for people that don't understand to trust their intuitive ability, we're all intuitive. And what we pick up, you notice sometimes later, like, oh, I wish I really thought about that at the time. Well, try to trust that you're giving, when you get these things that almost feels like it, like intuitive or psychic impressions, don't come in as like, okay, I created it. I wasn't thinking. If I say banana, I could see a banana. But if somebody just threw a banana in your face and without even thinking about it, that's an intuitive hit. That's you weren't thinking about a banana, you weren't trying to create a banana, but then that banana came into your view. So that's what an intuitive hit is. If you get one of those, especially when it is in regards to your dog, or fur buddy, then look into that a little bit
pay
more.
attention.
All you have to do, pay attention, trust yourself, because like I said, we are all intuitive, we are all psychic, we all have the ability to tune in, especially to people that we love, people and animals that we love, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like, I love, Julie, that you said you were talking about horses, because when you brought up your horse, I was like, we walk in circles with psychics and mediums. And a medium told me, she said, you're going to open up your animal communication with horses. I see horses. And I was like, I don't know anything about horses. Like, I'm not around.
Well,
but that's
you
good.
don't
That's what
need
makes you
to.
a good medium. Yeah, absolutely.
You don't need to know anything about horses. All you have to do is let them speak. And you did. Yeah, I mean, you really nailed it with Indy. And I have two other ones if you ever want to practice. I have two other
Oh
ones
my God.
that
No,
are
but
on the other side.
oh my God. I
Yeah,
didn't
I
know
have
that.
three.
Yeah, because I thought I was picking up other ones before, but with the woman that said that, I was like, okay, I'll keep that in mind. I ended up going to a farm to another little animal thing story. This woman was like, yeah, I actually live on a farm. I think she was up, I got a massage, and she's like, you're a medium, you're a psychic. And I was like, yeah, I thought about working, I've been trying to work on animal communication. She's like, I have a farm. Do you want to come to my farm? And I was like, yes.
I do,
So,
and not necessarily for reading, but okay.
yeah, for the animals. But I went to the farm, and I went out into the pasture with these horses, and there was like one that was like in charge, this one horse, and they had this whole thing. And I just had this sense that there was, I was like just asking them like, what's going on? Hi, and I had a notebook, and I just sat out there and I wrote down. They told me that one of their females had a baby. They said that she no longer could have babies because there was a birth was bad and she couldn't have any more, but they were excited about babies, the new baby's coming. And I was like, okay. So I went and I told them, I said, did you lose a calf? Like they're showing me that someone lost a calf and they can't have anymore. And they were like, oh my God, there were two sisters that ran this farm. And they were like, oh my God, that calf is buried in the field that you were in. And I was like, oh, okay. And they said we had to pull that calf out of that girl, and like her insides were messed up and she wasn't able to have more. And I said, well, gosh, I'm sorry to hear about that. And I said, but they're excited about babies. And the one sister was like, oh, no. We were going to bring her to a stud, but we didn't. And I was like, oh, okay. And the other sister went, so I didn't tell you, but I did bring her. And she's supposed to be in heat right now. And then they started fighting. They started arguing. It was like, so I think one of the mares were pregnant. Mare?
Mare.
Mare. That's a horse. The mare is a horse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think one of the girls were
Yeah, and
pregnant.
a stallion
One,
is the male stallion.
yeah,
Yeah.
the one sister had brought her to stud and didn't tell the other sister. So she was
Oh,
mad because they're supposed to be together on those decisions.
that's a big decision.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I was like, I'm gonna go. You know?
I gotta leave.
You outed the other sister, or the horse,
Yeah.
the horse
And that-
outed the other sister.
Yeah, absolutely. The horses did it. I was just listen, she asked me there. But
Yeah.
the other thing was I walked up and one of the sheep were like, like by the fence, and she's like, oh my God, I've never done that. And I was like, it's okay. Like he's just trying to tell me something, and I wasn't quite sure, but I sat by them and I was like, I went back and I said, hey, the sheep don't want to be in there. They want to be moved. And she's like, I know, God, like one of the sisters, God, I know they're always breaking out of there. And I said, well, I just really have the sense that if you don't move them, they're going to start getting sick. Like he's saying they're getting sick. And she's like, yeah, and she's like, I know, I don't have anywhere else to put them. And I'm like, I just really think that you should do whatever you can to get them out of that space, because for some reason they're going to get sick there. I don't know anything about sheep, but that's what I'm getting. And later, one of the sisters said that they did have a vet come in, and there was clover in with the sheep, and they were
Yeah,
allergic
that's
to
bad.
clover, and they were getting sick.
Oh, do you know how I know about
So
that?
she moved them. I didn't know.
Wow.
Yeah, I only
was
found out
crazy.
about that because I watched the show Yellowstone. That you could
All
kill
sheep
animals,
allergic?
well, not even just sheep, but like cows. They can't eat clover. It kills them. So
Yeah, and
it makes
horses
them really
can't
sick.
have
But
so
you know
much.
what? I didn't even
Yeah.
know there was clover in there. Like I
Well-
had no idea, but like, yeah, she ended up moving them. It was a smaller area, but she moved them because they were getting sick and they had a
Oh,
vet
wow.
come in. And I was like,
Ugh.
listen
Well,
to me. I know.
watch
So it was really
Yellowstone
cool.
and you'll get a good education with Yellowstone, the show.
No, the less I know, the better, because I was like, I don't know, but your sheep are going to get sick, so you need to move them. And
That's interesting. That's
Yeah.
the big
That
male
is
was
really
in
cool.
charge, so he was like, get us out of here. And when I was driving home, he was still with me. Like his spirit, his energy was still with
It's like,
me.
and then another thing.
Well, yeah, but like later,
Really?
like a week later, like because at the time I just really didn't close it down and be like, okay, I'm, thank you, I'll see you guys later. A week later, I was like, I kept having that sheep in my head, that big male, and I would message the sister and I said, hey, I'm just wondering, like a week later or a couple days later, hey, did you move the sheep? And she's like, not yet. And then like a week later, I was like, did you ever, what's going on with the sheep? Like, how are they? Because he would just be like, it was just like an urgency,
Yeah.
and which is weird. And then they finally moved him, and she told me about the vet. Well, the vet said, so they were out of there. And I was like, okay, are we done, sheep?
I know.
So
I helped you out.
I can't do anything. I told them so, but
Right.
it worked out. But that was always fascinating to me because it's legitimate things these animals know, and they're sharing their story, and you just have to pay attention to what these random things you're picking up. Like, oh, they're excited about babies. Like, that's weird. Like, I didn't know they were having apparently
Yeah.
one of the sisters didn't either. But it's
Ugh.
just like fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm always amazed at what animals know and what they share. If you're listening.
Yeah.
That is
Absolutely.
amazing.
Yeah.
it's
And
an amazing story.
I absolutely like to have such a connection, especially when you're on your first times really trying to hone into it. But you as an animal communicator, you realize, right? We're all spirit, so you're connecting with the oneness of all. Just because they don't speak in life doesn't mean that they don't know how to communicate with you after they've passed, right? So yeah, and it's interesting, and especially like I notice as intuitives, we tend to get spirits that gravitate to us based on our personal experiences. And I seem to
100% I
always,
agree.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Connect with animals. I seem to connect with people that have had tragic situations in their lives, based on my own experiences with family. So I completely understand. And it's interesting, and how we sort of not one reader can will ever completely connect with the same thing, even if it's, let's say, your grandmother. You'll get an aspect that she gives off. It's not like she's having a one-to-one communication. We are connecting with her spirit, which is vast. So, you're connecting with different aspects of the same person. And I notice it just because, I do like facilitating and also like, intuitive development teaching. And I will see them, and Julie knows what I'm talking about. She also does that, that they'll connect with the same thing, the same person, but get different specific aspects of that person. That is, vastly different than, I mean, it's all correct, but it's just what you connect with people. Yeah.
And that's what I always like. I love that example, because when you talk about how individual mediums are, how we get different messages, we get them in different ways, we pick up on different things. Like I usually go deep with people, and I see depression very easily. I see mental illness very easily, and people are like, oh my
yeah.
God, you know what I mean? And it's like, we all have kind of our specialty. I'm big on boundaries. I think we all know that.
And that's enough. No, I'm just kidding.
And I'm done. But it's,
yeah.
I just find that a lot of people come where they need where I'm like, it's okay. Yeah, you don't have to do that. It's okay for you to say no. Like, so we're so individual, like you said, you can pick up different aspects, or they'll drop different aspects or information to certain mediums, because
of their understanding of what they're going through, right?
You may give a message that they want to give way better than I could give it. You know what I mean? So you would be the medium that they would more likely move to. That's my opinion. Like they'll go to the medium that will express more efficiently what they're trying to convey.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, and I notice the spirits do. I've often, before readings, will get the spirit that comes in, especially ones that have had traumatic, situations in their lives. The spirit will come to me, not being able to have spoken to anybody else, and I get that a lot, where it's like, it's almost like they can smell that on you. Like they can sense that about you, and that you'd understand. Like there was a few mediums that I worked with that had unfortunately lost children. I have not had that experience, and they seem to get people, the children that come back, or things like that, in quite a few of their their readings. So it's and it makes sense, because I would not be best to describe or help, understand what they're going through, because in certain situations people really need that compassion, just like I get a lot of people that lost their mother. I get a lot of people that right, and it's because you get it, and that spirit knows, before you even look for a medium, or your spirit is your loved one has already picked them out. I will tell you that's the sense I get, is that they hone in on who to go to. So
and I can't tell you, and I know you guys have probably heard this, but people will be like, I just saw your picture and I was so drawn to you. Like I knew I had to come to you. And I'm like, because they're led.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as a medium, we know that. And and it's important that, especially if you are doing mediumship, you want to always give them exactly what they came there for. That is, part of our code. Obviously, not everybody follows the code, but inherently, it is the reason we go to mediumship is one, because we understand the loss, and therefore are able to connect with anyone, really. But it seems to be the more severe or more tragic, or more just let's say energized situation, because it could even be like a really great situation. It doesn't necessarily mean always tragedy, but when it's an extreme sort of energy, they always seem to go to like the one that can express that the most, right? I think that's a different way to say that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Julie,
Well, oh yeah. Oh, go ahead.
just real quick, Julie, was your dad military?
He
Like
was he was in the Korean War.
Okay, because
Are you seeing my dad?
Right behind you, yeah, on your left. I just saw a man in uniform standing there.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Like a brown, a brown uniform. Like it looks vintagey. Like I don't know uniforms, but
I know that since he's crossed over, he has connected with people he knew in the war. And so it would make sense that he's showing you himself in his uniform.
yeah, interesting. I just happened to notice that. I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I know he's around. I know he's around a lot.
Yeah. He's definitely hanging out with you. Like he's very stoic behind you.
He was the first person I read for Julie when we were in school. And I was like, he is very handsome man, very has a tall, thin, like kind of structure, right? And I was like, oh, so excited because he came in very vividly, and I tried to talk to him and I didn't have anything, because it was like I'm still like, yeah, he doesn't.
That's why I don't have much to offer. No. He's there and he's standing there, like it's like a presence. It's not not a verbal, it's just a presence, like here I am.
Yeah, very loving too.
Bayon got really down on herself about that because she just couldn't get the information. But what people don't realize is that when people cross over, they will still be who they are. And my dad was not a person who talked a lot. He was very quiet. He was introverted. He didn't have a lot, to say.
Yeah, and that's why, like, he's just standing there. Like,
and that's why I always call him my best teacher. Yeah, he was definitely my best teacher, because at the time I had, we were still like, developing. So I was like, and usually spirits, because, being born, being able to kind of communicate. And then, I just didn't have that like understanding that some spirits just don't talk necessarily as much as let's say somebody that was very active in life, or somebody that is that's been that's like even active now. Sometimes they're not necessarily active in life, but then later on they are. But there's just some, like your father being an example of that, is like Melanie just said, is their presence is more telling sometimes.
They keep their personality. They keep their personality. It continues.
Yeah, can you imagine? Like, I don't really have much else to say. He's just there.
Yeah,
he's there. Yeah, that's what I was like. Come on, give me something. Yeah.
It's also interesting, like when you're reading someone like that. Either, like, I find if I'm bringing through someone who had like dementia or a scattered thoughts, like my thoughts will be scattered, and I'll be like, I just can't get my words out. I'll be like, that's what she was like. She couldn't, because I'm like, give me a second. I just like, I can't formulate my words, And I just had a reading like that where I was like, I feel like my thoughts are all over the place, and I almost feel like on and off and like bipolar. And she was like, yep. And I'm like, oh,
yeah.
Because you don't always get it right away, and then I'm like, I have to remind myself that what I'm feeling now and my issues that I'm having now may not be my issues. They're just trying to convey like these were my issues.
Oh
Right.
yeah.
I
Oh
could
yeah.
not find my words. So then I say I can't find my words. And they're
Yeah.
like, yeah, like my sitter is like, yeah, she had dementia, like she couldn't speak. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So
that's another lesson I had to learn early on is once I was like doing a reading and I felt like I was trapped in a box and I was like, what the heck is happening? I couldn't even breathe. I started almost panicking. And then finally I just heard, that's the message actually from one of my guys, like, that's the message, just get it. Like, and I was like, oh, okay. As soon as I did, I got out of the box and I said, oh, and then, but like, yeah, especially being empathic, right? You're already in their energy. And then, you do in the beginning, like if you are starting to listen, I just meditated. How come I just now am blocked for no reason? There's a reason. That's a message, right? I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of my first readings was, not one of my first readings, but when I really started working for real. I was reading this guy and I was like, I'm like, I just have this really, like, I feel really good. Like, I'm like your dad and, like, I just feel really good. And I was like, hold on. I think I have two people. I'm all of a sudden, I'm just pissed. I'm so mad. Like, and I was like, hold on, I might have two people. Like, I just feel really good. And then I'm like pissed for no reason. Like, I just want to lose my shit pissed. And he's like, yeah, he was bipolar.
Oh.
And I was like, oh my God, because I was so confused. And I'm like, and at the time I really hadn't experienced having two, like now I'll like know the difference between two spirits and I can just pull them apart, or I can focus on one and then focus on the other, or whatever I decide to do. But at the time I was like, I think I have two people, like, but it was one. And it was like, he was just showing me his own personality, which was absolutely mind blowing on my end. Thank God the guy got it. Cause I was like, I just was feeling really good 1 second. And now I just want to kill somebody.
And like, that is really hard too, to like, especially because like, let's say two spirits are very similar. Oftentimes, in fact, in the beginning, and then that was the same practice, Jewel, where you saw my my grandmother, and then, but it was both. It was my mother and my grandmother coming in at the same time, and they both have very similar personality traits. But, and so that's why sometimes it's hard for people to like pull them apart and say, oh, wait, this one is this and that one is that. But I came to find out that like many intuitives still come in and they'll read both my mother and my grandmother. But, and then you throw in that factor. Okay, now I'm like, what if they have split personality? Disorder, that would be very difficult to like, to kind of traverse through. So I wonder how that would be.
Like you have to verbalize those things, I find. But you guys want to hear something really funny that happened? I just did an event. I know we probably have to go, but I just want to tell you because it was.
Oh no, I want to hear it. Yeah.
So I just did an event, and it was this crystal shop. This girl Jody, she blows my mind, and she knows so much about crystals, and she just is very open, and she's way intuitive, and she won't believe herself yet, but she will. You will, Jody. But anyway, so I was doing this event this past weekend. It was back to back to back, back to back. Like one person would sit, then they leave, and another person, and it was like all day, and it was insane. So I had one woman sit down. Great reading. Her mom came through, and it was just so nice. And like her mom was standing right here, and I was like, okay, thank you, and she left. And another woman sat down, and I was writing down, and I said, okay, right away I'm picking up a mom. Hold on a second, because this woman is still standing here, and I said, hold on, I still have the mom from this lady, so let me just clear her for a second. Because I was like, why is she still here? That's so weird. And the lady goes, no, that's my mom. That the lady before was my sister. That's
I
my
knew
mom.
it. Yeah. I love that. She's like,
Like, no,
I'm just gonna wait here till the
no,
other one
like
comes in.
I literally, I swear to you, I literally was like,
I love that.
why are you still here? Like,
Like,
I'm like thinking, I need to clear this energy. Like, why is she
yeah.
here? Let me just,
Open the spirit door.
yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Bye. But no, she's like, oh no, that's my mom. And I was like, how do you know? You know what I mean? And she's like, oh, that was my sister before. And I was like, oh, it was
Oh, I
just so
love
funny because
That
yeah,
is.
it was
I love
hysterical.
that.
And I was like, oh, thank God. Okay. Because I don't, you know, like I literally was like, why are you
We
here?
got this lady hanging on. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was like, we're done. Like she's over there. Why don't you go there? You know?
Amazing.
Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, it was really funny. Like
That's
that's the
awesome.
first time I've ever had that. It was just cracked up.
I love it.
Anyway.
Well, everyone, you can find Melanie on Evolve Me, and Melanie, please let everybody know where else they can find you.
Oh my gosh. Well, I do. There's a little shop called Can Apothecary where locally I do readings in person. I'm on Zoom. You can find me Media Melanie Rose at Gmail. You can find me on Instagram, Media Melanie Rose, Facebook, Media Melanie Rose. I'm working on
Yay.
putting myself out there. I know I
Ooh.
have to, and I will.
Yes, and we're talking about starting a mediumship circle. So you know, we're trying to get that developed. The three of us. So that will be really fun if we can get that going. Melanie is a very busy lady, so we'll definitely try to work something.
Working on it. I'm working on calming this down.
Calming it down.
Do more of this.
Yeah, and just so you know, and it's funny, your dog's name is Ghost. He coming in and out. It's probably because he wanted to say hi to me, but I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, a medium with a dog named Ghost.
I know.
I didn't name him. That was his name when he came, and I wanted to change it, and my son said no. So
I love it.
and
Ghost is great.
Yes,
he's a good
absolutely.
little guy.
Yeah, very cute. Yes, and I do want to pet him one day. Yeah. For everybody else, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And Julie and I are going to be on again. We're going to try to wrangle Melanie in again and have her come on because it was so much fun. So, you know, definitely come back, and, you know, we're going to do readings, talk about paranormal, everything, anything that is, let's say, paranormal,
Which
definitely
is normal.
Yeah, which yes,
Is
is
normal.
very more. This is our normal lives. So
Anything that's paranormal and Melanie.
yeah. We love
Yeah.
no, but we definitely, if you know, definitely send us your stories, images, and all of those things, and we love to talk about it. So definitely join us for our next show coming up in a few weeks, right? And we'd love to and we'll be doing readings too as well within these. So come back for that. And thank you all. And I hope you have a great night.
Yeah. And thanks for having me. It was fun.
Thank you,
Thanks
Melanie.
for being here.